Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to change a tire on your Maserati. Okay guys, so customer's got a flat here in the back. As you can see here, tire is completely flat. And we don't know why, but we're here to change the tire out. So first thing you want to do is open up your trunk, as I have already done. Okay, so you come back here to the back, you lift up your trunk, and then you take this little red strap and you hook it to the rain gutter right there. And then under there, you'll have your spare tire and your spare tire kit, right? So these spare tires are collapsible spares, so you're gonna have to fill it with air. I've got my little Milwaukee compact inflator from Home Depot. Your collapsible spare and your tire changing kit. So collapsible spare means this one does not come filled with air. It's completely flat, so we're gonna have to inflate it. They do give you an air pump in this kit right here. That is the air pump, and let's see if I can get it out. And it has instructions on it right here. Okay, so if you have to use this air pump, go ahead and take the plastic off of it, tear it off, and then right here, this little hose right there, that's the hose you're going to screw into your valve stem right there. And then you got your power cord, of course, right? So you'll take it and you'll screw it into the tire, into the valve stem with the hose, which is this picture right here, right? And then what you want to do is plug it into the vehicle, which is, I don't know, they don't have that picture, but it's going to plug into where you plug in your cell phone charger and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. This little cylinder shape area right here would normally sometimes have a thing of fix-a-flat in it. So that's what you see, that cylinder on that picture, right? So if you don't have a spare and you need to fix a flat, that screws in to this little red port right here, right? And there's two different settings. One for adding glue and one just for air. Well, that's power, and that's, I don't know if that's to add the glue or not. I'm pretty sure that's to add the glue. I haven't used this specific one before, but power button here, add glue here. If you're not adding glue, just power, don't need to hit that, right? And then what else would you need to know about this? Plug it in, turn it on, showed you that. Pump it up to 51 psi. Now when you're done with this, if you did use the glue, you want to make sure you put that glue bottle into a bag or something. You don't want to just put it in the trunk of your car, because it'll spill all over in here and make a mess. So don't want to do that. The other thing is, you want to, after you plug it in, you want to turn your vehicle on, because that's going to make this pump run a lot faster. So a few little tips if you're using the factory air pump. And I think that's really all there is. It says it takes about 10 minutes to fill up. That's about right. It says minimum is 29 psi. Oh, that must be for your full size tire, not for your spare. Your spare takes a lot more than 29. It goes to 51. So that direction must have been speaking of the full size. So I don't like to use these. I like to keep these as mint as possible, so that way when the customer goes to sell the vehicle, it'll look more newer than if I were to tear the plastic out and use that, because you can never get them to go back the way they are. If you have to use it, you have to use it, but if you don't have to use it, don't use it. I'm going to be using Milwaukee's compact inflator. This is just a little air pump from Home Depot. It has a little battery pack on it right there. We're going to go ahead and set the PSI to 51 PSI on here, and it will stop itself at 51. And how do we know we inflate it to 51? Because somewhere on this tire it should tell us to inflate to, I don't see it at the moment, but when we start pumping it up and the sidewall pops out, then we'll be able to see it. So we'll go ahead and start pumping that now. Okay guys, so we inflated the tire like it says here on this side, and we put it to 51 psi because we're in America. And now we'll go ahead and set the jack and all that stuff. Okay, so now that we got the spare tire inflated, next thing we want to do is get our factory lug wrench out. This is our factory lug wrench here, and then inside this little kit is going to have our locking lug nut, key, and also our other lug nuts that are in there. Okay, so on a lot of these vehicles, you're going to find locking lug nuts. This is the case for the locking lug nuts and also for the key. Open it up, and inside of here, you're going to find your key. This is the key for the locking lug nut. And then our vehicle does not have the locking lug nuts installed on it. These are the locking lug nuts. All 4 of them are in here. The customer must have had them removed, which is a good idea because they're more of a hassle than a help. And you can see there, that's how the keyway would fit onto the locking lug nut, and then it goes a certain way and it'll fit in there like so, right? And then once it locks in, you're able to remove your locking lug nut, but it has to lock in like that right there. So make sure if your vehicle has the locking lug nut and you have to use the key, that you get it to seat properly, because if you don't, it'll tear up that little keyway right there, and then you won't be able to get these off. So just be cautious with that. Put that back in there. We don't need that. Good for us. Go ahead and slide it over and lock it. And then down in here is our 17mm socket, which goes on the end of our lug wrench here. So this actually retracts out, so it gives you a little bit more leverage, so you can get your lug nuts off. So I already have a 17 in there because I was going to use that impact, and I wasn't going to make a video on this, but figured why not. So take your little socket, fit it onto the end of your lug wrench like so, and then carefully slide it into the wheel bore hole for the lug nut. Get it to lock into the lug, and once you have it, you know, tight on there, go ahead and turn it counterclockwise. And break all of the lug nuts loose, like that. Now, if you're not that strong and you can't really turn these, another way that you could do it is put a pipe over the end of this and give yourself some more leverage, which will make you stronger. Or you can always put your foot onto it and push down. Just be careful not to push the tool into the car. Just break it loose like that. And you want to get all of these broken loose before you get the vehicle jacked up, because if you get the vehicle jacked up and then you have to break these loose, it may jar the vehicle, knocking the vehicle off of the jack. You don't want to do that. So just break them all loose before you get it off of the ground. There you go. Okay, so now we got all of our lug nuts loosened. We're going to get ready to set our jack, but before we do that, we don't want to forget to set our emergency brake. So we're going to go ahead and jump in the vehicle here, and in the middle center console, you're going to have this P button. Just pull that and hold that up. It should light up. So pull that, and then it should light up on your dash in red letters, brake. That lets you know that your emergency brake is set. And so now the vehicle won't roll off of the jack. Okay, so now we got our emergency brake set. we'll go ahead and grab our jack out of the kit here and get it set into the jacking point of the vehicle. Now, there's 4 jacking points on this vehicle, 2 in the back and 2 in the front. Our flat is in the back, so I'm going to show you that first. Also, by the way, you'll notice that this jack has a nipple here. It's a very specific jack that fits the Maserati. There's a plastic rubber provision underneath the rocker panel. I'll show you in a minute where this little nipple fits inside of. So definitely a Maserati specific jack. Well, I guess you could use Mercedes as well, because they have a similar jack. But go underneath the rocker panel here, and right here you'll see this little, I guess it's plastic, sometimes they're rubber, but this one's plastic, and it has this little hole in it right here, right? That's where you're going to want to place your jack. So I'm going to take our jack. Oh, there's also a little indicator here underneath the vehicle on the plastic right here that points you towards where the jack goes. So just take that, get it into position like a so, and then start to open up your jack, making sure that nipple lines up with the hole like so as you're opening it up. And then once you get it tight, you can come back out from underneath the vehicle and start to crank it with this crank here. Now, like I said, our flat is in the back, so we're going to be putting our jack here in the back. But let's say you had a front flat, right? You want to see where that's at? So let me show you here. Right here in the plastic under the car has this little kind of indicator thing, and it's going to point you to the little plastic little provision thing right here, where it has that little hole that the jack's going to line up and go into, and that's where your front jacking point is on this vehicle. All right, so got our little jack, our little rinky-dinky handle here. Pay all this money, get the world's crappiest jack, but it's what we got to use. Remember, we've got all of our lug nuts broken loose before we start this, because you don't want to do all this labor of cranking this thing up and then find out you got to crank it back down to break the lug nuts loose. So go ahead and remember to do that before you crank it up. And that's it. Crank her up. What an absolute pain in the butt. You know, if they just put a 3/4 or 17mm fitting here at the end, you could take your factory lug wrench and crank it, or the impact wrench with a socket on it. But no, they've got the world's most intelligent engineers at Maserati. I swear to God, like, how stupid can you be to make it? I mean, how stupid can you be to make a jack like this? Really, you're an engineer. Like, this is what you come up with? Horrible. I'd be ashamed of myself if I was an engineer and this is the jack I came out with. Like, this isn't even a hard thing to do where we're at now, but imagine if you're in the snow or the ice or the side of the interstate and you have to use this. You know, not very convenient. Okay, so now that you've got the vehicle jacked up how it should be, and you got your tire up off of the ground, you want to take your factory lug wrench here and just spin these lug nuts off lefty-loosey until they are completely off and out and fall out of there. And that is your wheel stud. So crank those until all of them come out. Okay, so I'm going to be using a Milwaukee 18-volt impact from Home Depot with a 17mm socket, just to speed this up a little bit. Alright, once you get all your lug studs out of there, just grab the wheel and pull on it, and it should come right off like that. We can see here that this wheel has a very bad tearing on the inside, which means it probably has bad suspension or bad alignment for some reason, but most likely that's calls for bad suspension. I'll look over for a nail. Okay, so like I said, it's all worn out on the inside, right? Sometimes that can happen if you get a nail in it and it starts to ride low and it pinches the sidewall a little bit. It'll wear out one little spot, but in this situation, I don't think that's the reason, because I don't see a nail anywhere in this tire that would have brought it down. So at this point, it's probably just a bad alignment problem. So let's check his other rear tire and see what this one looks like on the inside. Yeah, see, same problem right here. That's because he's got bad suspension in the back. He needs some suspension work, some sort. Said he just got these tires not too long ago. So that is what the problem is. Most likely one of these bushings in here is worn out, or one of these shocks is worn out. But whenever any of these little bushings, like this is the sway bar bushing right here, this rubber, this one actually looks good, but like here's a suspension link bushing. If this rubber here gets worn out, or like the rubber in this link right here gets worn out, anything goes bad in here, it makes this, let me span out a little bit, it makes this wheel, you know, tilt in and out. And when it does that, it starts to ride on the inside of the tire, you know, almost at like an angle or a pitch like that. And you can't really see it because it's so minute, but it'll start to cut right through the tire over time because it's not wearing evenly on the tire, it's wearing on one spot. So that's what the issue is with this one. We'll go ahead and grab our spare and put it on now. I'm sure you guys are ready to see that part. So just take this baby, roll it into place. There's like a little wheel stud dowel thing right here that you can set the wheel on, and it'll hold it up for you. And you can also, of course, set it on the lip of this hub right here inside there. So that. You just take your wheel stud and screw it in by hand. You always want to screw these in by hand because you don't want to cross thread them, and they're very easily cross threaded because of their design. It's another bad engineering design. These lug studs, they should be like America, where it comes out of the hub and then you screw a lug nut onto it. I don't like lug studs. They're prone to cross threading, and they're very difficult to get on if you're not, you know, used to putting them on. But in any way, put them on, make sure they screw in evenly and nicely. If they're not screwing in easily and nicely, then unscrew it and try it again, because that means you're cross threading it. So just take it like so, stick it in there, turn it by hand. It should turn, you know, 5 or 6 rotations, and then you could take your factory lug wrench and just hand tighten it. Okay, so just take your factory lug wrench and tighten these in a cross pattern to seat the wheel correctly to the hub, like so. And then once you get them on there completely tight by hand, just take your foot and push on it, and that will tighten it the rest of the way that it needs to be tightened. Now you just got to let your factory jack down by cranking it down. Just be careful not to scratch your paint, because this handle is prone to turning backwards like that and wanting to dig into the side of a car. So be very cautious that you don't do that, okay? You want to make sure this handle always stays the other way and that you keep flesh between you and the car, okay? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. That's how to change a tire on your Maserati. Now, I did read the owner's manual, and I did not see anywhere where it needed to go into a specific suspension mode in order to change the tire. I read it pretty thoroughly, so you guys know your cars better than I do. That's not my car. That's a customer's car. So if you know, anything different about the suspension settings when jacking this, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'd like to know about that, but I couldn't find anything. Just set the parking brake and you should be good to go. Break all your lug nuts loose before you jack the vehicle up, and inflate the tire to 51 psi, and you should be good. All right, you guys, that'll do it for this video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I need all the help I can get. See you guys. Bye.